You think you know frontier firearms, single-action revolvers, lever-action rifles, maybe a shotgun for close encounters. Dead wrong. The actual weapons that terrorized the American frontier were so devastatingly brutal, so ingeniously deadly, that civilized society couldn't stomach their existence. These weren't just guns. They were mechanical monsters that redefined what it meant to hold life and death in your hands. Today, we're diving into the 10 most savage weapons ever unleashed on the Wild West. Firearms so terrifying that lawmakers, military officials, and even hardened gunfighters demanded they be banned forever. What you're about to discover will shatter everything you thought you knew about frontier violence. By the end of this journey, you'll understand why these weapons disappeared, not because they didn't work, but because they worked too well. Get ready to meet the mechanical demons that were too brutal for the brutal West itself. Number 10. The Allen and Thurber Pepperbox. Imagine facing down what looked like a pocket-sized Gatling gun in the hands of someone who clearly had nothing left to lose. The Pepperbox wasn't just a weapon. It was a statement, written in rotating barrels and black powder thunder. This bizarre contraption looked like someone had taken multiple single-shot pistols and mashed them together into one terrifying package. 4, 5, or 6 barrels clustered together like the chambers of a demonic revolver, each one loaded and ready to deliver instant death. The psychological impact alone was devastating. When someone drew a pepperbox, everyone in the vicinity understood that negotiations had officially ended. What made the pepperbox truly diabolical was its affordability. While professional gunfighters might carry expensive Colts, ordinary settlers could afford these multi-barreled nightmares for a fraction of the cost. Suddenly, every shopkeeper, traveling salesman, and farmer's wife could pack enough firepower to level a small army. The democratization of devastation had arrived on the frontier. The rotating barrel system meant multiple shots without the vulnerability of reloading. In close-quarters combat, this advantage was absolutely decisive. While your opponent fumbled with powder and ball after their first shot, you still had 3, 4, or 5 rounds ready to end the conversation permanently. Saloon fights became massacres when pepperboxes entered the equation. But here's what made lawmakers nervous. The pepperbox required no special training, no years of practice to master. Point, pull the trigger, rotate to the next barrel, repeat until the threat was eliminated. It was idiot-proof lethality in a convenient package. Even a complete amateur could wield devastating firepower with minimal skill. The weapon's reputation grew so fearsome that many conflicts ended the moment one appeared. Drawing a pepperbox sent a clear message that you weren't interested in a fair fight. You were interested in absolute victory regardless of the body count. This psychological warfare aspect made it effective beyond its actual capabilities. Manufacturing quality varied wildly, turning each pepperbox into a potential bomb in the user's hand. Cheap construction meant that misfires could turn your weapon into shrapnel, taking out the shooter along with the target. This unpredictability added another layer of terror to an already frightening weapon. As frontier towns grew more civilized, the pepperbox's indiscriminate destruction became unacceptable. Town councils and territorial governments began restricting their use, recognizing that these weapons were designed for massacre, not self-defense. The pepperbox was simply too brutal for polite society. Number 9. The Remington Model 95 Double Derringer. Don't let the diminutive size fool you. This tiny assassin packed enough stopping power to drop a full-grown man while hiding completely inside a woman's purse or a gambler's vest pocket. Measuring barely 5 inches long and weighing just 11 ounces, the Model 95 looked like a toy until you examined the business end. Two .41 caliber barrels stacked vertically, each loaded with enough powder to propel lead faster than many full-sized revolvers. This wasn't a backup weapon. It was a primary killing tool disguised as a gentleman's accessory. The Derringer's concealability made it the preferred weapon of assassins, backstabbers, and anyone who understood that survival often depended on appearing helpless while packing lethal force. Theater patrons, card players, and social gatherings became potential battlefields when everyone might be secretly armed with these pocket executioners. What truly terrified authorities was the weapon's social acceptability. Ladies could carry Derringers openly as fashionable accessories, while gentlemen considered them essential for civilized protection. This normalization of concealed deadly force created an atmosphere of constant paranoia where anyone could be harboring instant death. The stacked barrel design meant 2 shots before reloading, but at close range, 1 shot was usually sufficient. The massive .41 caliber projectile delivered devastating wound channels that few victims survived. Medical facilities on the frontier were primitive at best, making any serious gunshot wound effectively fatal. Professional gamblers made the Derringer legendary through countless saloon encounters. When accusations of cheating arose, the Derringer provided immediate dispute resolution. Card games became exercises in mutual assured destruction, with every player potentially carrying concealed firepower capable of clearing the entire table. The weapon's lack of a trigger guard was both innovative and terrifying. The trigger folded into the frame when not in use, preventing accidental discharge while carried, but when cocked, it extended ready for instant use. This feature allowed lightning-fast deployment from concealed positions. Law enforcement struggled to regulate Derringers because of their legitimate uses and social acceptance. Unlike obvious weapons that could be banned from public spaces, Derringers blended seamlessly into everyday life. Every social interaction carried the potential for sudden, explosive violence. The psychological impact extended far beyond actual shootings. Knowing that anyone might be carrying a Derringer changed social dynamics completely. Arguments became more polite, insults less common, and physical confrontations virtually disappeared when everyone understood that escalation could prove instantly fatal. Eventually, the Derringer's very effectiveness led to its downfall. As frontier society matured, the constant threat of concealed assassination became incompatible with civilized discourse. Towns began restricting concealed carry, specifically targeting weapons like the Derringer that enabled surprise attacks. The Model 95 represented the perfect fusion of lethality and concealment, making it too dangerous for a society trying to transition from lawless frontier to organized civilization. Its ban marked the beginning of the end for weapons designed primarily for surprise attacks rather than honest confrontation. But if you think a tiny Derringer was terrifying, wait until you meet our next mechanical monster. A weapon so bizarre, so overwhelmingly deadly, that its very existence challenged everything people thought they knew about the limits of portable firepower. Number 8. The Lafaucheux 20-round pinfire revolver. Imagine staring down what appeared to be a mechanical nightmare, conceived by someone who thought 6 shots simply wasn't enough devastation for one trigger pull. This French abomination didn't just bend the rules of revolver design, it shattered them completely and rebuilt them into something that belonged in a fever dream. Picture a cylinder so massive, it looked like someone had strapped a small cannon to a pistol grip. 20 chambers arranged in perfect mechanical harmony, each one loaded with a pinfire cartridge that could end a life with surgical precision. But here's what made this weapon truly diabolical. 2 barrels. Not one, but 2 separate tubes of death that could alternate fire without missing a beat. The tactical advantage was absolutely staggering. While your opponent counted shots and planned their move after your 6th round, you were just getting warmed up. 14 shots remaining, 2 barrels ready to deliver alternating thunder, and a double-action mechanism that meant continuous fire until everything threatening ceased to exist. This wasn't a gunfight. It was a one-sided massacre waiting to happen. French military officers brought these mechanical marvels to American shores during the Civil War, and they spread through the frontier like wildfire through dry grass. Suddenly, cowboys who acquired these weapons possessed firepower that seemed to violate the natural laws of combat. 20 shots versus 6 wasn't a fair fight. It was mathematical certainty wrapped in steel and black powder. But the pinfire system carried a deadly secret that made every loaded cartridge a potential hand grenade. Those protruding pins that gave the weapon its name were incredibly sensitive to impact. A hard fall, a sharp blow, even rough handling could detonate cartridges in your pocket, turning ammunition into improvised explosives that could take out the carrier along with anyone standing nearby. The massive cylinder created handling problems that went far beyond simple weight distribution. Drawing this monster from a holster required strength, skill, and enough time for an opponent to empty a traditional revolver twice over. Quick-draw artists found themselves carrying weapons that negated their primary advantage through sheer mechanical bulk. Loading 20 chambers transformed reloading from a tactical consideration into a major logistical operation. Each pinfire cartridge had to be carefully seated to avoid accidental detonation, and the process took so long that many users preferred carrying multiple weapons rather than attempting field reloads during combat situations. The weapon's European engineering couldn't handle American frontier abuse. Dust, moisture, and rough handling caused the complex mechanism to jam at precisely the moments when reliability mattered most. Users discovered that mechanical sophistication meant nothing when your 20-shot advantage turned into an expensive club during the critical seconds of a gunfight. Authorities recognized that weapons capable of sustained rapid fire fundamentally altered the nature of violence itself. 20 shots meant the ability to engage multiple opponents, clear entire rooms, or maintain suppressive fire that traditional revolvers simply couldn't match. This level of firepower was deemed incompatible with maintaining public order. The psychological warfare aspect was undeniable. Word spread quickly about the massive French revolver that could fire seemingly forever. Many confrontations ended before they began, when opponents realized they were facing someone carrying enough ammunition to outfit a small squad of soldiers. As American gun manufacturers perfected cartridge revolvers with reasonable capacity and reliable mechanisms, the bizarre French experiment fell from favor. The La Faucheux represented the outer limits of what revolver design could achieve, proving that more wasn't always better when it came to practical firearms. Number 7. The Laymat revolver. Meet the weapon that asked a simple question. Why choose between a revolver and a shotgun when you can have both in one terrifyingly effective package? Dr. Jean-Alexandre Laymat didn't just create a gun. He engineered a philosophical statement about the nature of close-quarters combat written in steel, lead, and buckshot. This wasn't just innovation, it was mechanical genius with a sadistic streak. 9 chambers of .42 caliber precision, arranged around a central 20-gauge shotgun barrel that could clear an entire room with one trigger pull. The psychological impact was devastating. Opponents might count revolver shots and plan their approach, but nobody expected the sudden roar of a shotgun blast from what looked like an oversized revolver. Confederate cavalry officers made this weapon legendary during the Civil War, using it to devastating effect in mounted charges where versatility meant survival. The revolver function provided precision for individual targets, while the shotgun barrel could stop charging horses or multiple attackers simultaneously. It was tactical flexibility incarnate, wrapped in a package that redefined what handheld weapons could accomplish. The switching mechanism was brilliantly simple, yet terrifyingly effective. Moving a small lever on the hammer selected between the revolver cylinder and the central shotgun barrel. This meant users could engage individual threats with precision, then instantly switch to area effect devastation without drawing a second weapon or fumbling with different ammunition types. Wild frontier legends claimed that certain gunfighters carried Laymats specifically for their intimidation factor. The distinctive silhouette was instantly recognizable to anyone who understood firearms, and drawing one sent clear messages about the carrier's intentions and capabilities. Many confrontations ended not with shots fired, but with opponents recognizing they were outgunned in ways they couldn't counter. The weapon's reputation for mechanical complexity became both blessing and curse. While the innovative design provided unmatched versatility, the intricate mechanism was prone to fouling and required maintenance that went far beyond simple cleaning. Frontier conditions were brutal on precision machinery, and the LeMat's sophistication made it vulnerable to environmental damage that simpler weapons shrugged off. Loading procedures were elaborate enough to discourage casual use. 9 revolver chambers plus the shotgun barrel meant carrying multiple types of ammunition and understanding different loading techniques for each function. This complexity made the LeMat a specialist's weapon, rather than something ordinary settlers could master without significant training and practice. The weight distribution was challenging for anyone accustomed to traditional revolvers. The central shotgun barrel and extended cylinder created a weapon that handled differently from anything else available, requiring users to develop entirely new muscle memory and shooting techniques. Quick-draw artists found their existing skills partially obsolete when carrying a LeMat. Manufacturing costs kept the LeMat out of most hands, making it a luxury item for officers, wealthy civilians, and professional gunfighters who could afford specialized weapons. This exclusivity added to its mystique while limiting its actual impact on frontier violence patterns. As standardization became important for military and civilian users alike, the LeMat's uniqueness became a liability. Replacement parts were impossible to find, repairs required specialized knowledge, and ammunition logistics became nightmares when standard cartridges wouldn't fit the unusual design specifications. The combination weapon concept proved too far ahead of its time for widespread adoption. While the LeMat demonstrated what was possible when conventional thinking was abandoned, it also showed why successful weapons balanced innovation with practical considerations like reliability, maintenance, and user training requirements. Number 6. The Colt Revolver Rifle. Imagine trying to explain to a modern firearms expert that someone once thought mounting a revolver cylinder on a rifle stock was brilliant engineering. This mechanical abomination represented everything wrong with frontier innovation, where desperation for rapid fire created weapons that were more dangerous to their users than their targets. Picture holding what appeared to be a normal rifle, only to discover that your support hand was positioned directly in front of a rotating cylinder that belched superheated gas and burning powder fragments with every shot. The Colt revolver rifle didn't just challenge conventional wisdom about long gun design. It actively punished anyone foolish enough to grip it traditionally. The concept seemed logical on paper. Take the proven Colt revolver mechanism, extend the barrel for rifle accuracy, add a stock for stability, and create a repeating long gun that could deliver sustained fire. What could possibly go wrong with combining the rapid fire capability of a revolver with the accuracy potential of a rifle? Everything, as it turned out. The gap between cylinder and barrel that was merely annoying in a handgun became actively dangerous in a rifle configuration. Hot gases, unburned powder, and metal fragments escaped sideways with enough force to burn, blind, or seriously injure anyone holding the weapon properly. Users quickly learned to grip the rifle in unnatural positions that sacrificed accuracy and control to avoid injury. 7 or 8 chambers provided impressive firepower for the era, giving users multiple shots before reloading became necessary. But the rifle's accuracy was mediocre at best, negating the primary advantage that long guns were supposed to provide over handguns. Users discovered they were carrying weapons that were too unwieldy for close combat, yet too inaccurate for precision work. The psychological impact worked both ways. Enemies facing someone with a Colt revolver rifle knew they were dealing with sustained fire capability, but allies quickly learned to give the shooter plenty of space. Nobody wanted to be positioned where escaping gases could cause injury, creating tactical complications that traditional weapons didn't impose. Loading procedures were identical to revolver protocols, making ammunition logistics simple for users already familiar with Colt products. But the rifle's size and weight made it cumbersome during the loading process. and the extended barrel made it difficult to maneuver in confined spaces where rapid reloading might be necessary. Self-cocking variants eliminated the need to manually cock the hammer between shots, providing true rapid-fire capability that seemed impressive until users discovered that sustained fire heated the metal enough to cause burns through normal handling. The weapon became literally too hot to handle during extended engagements. Professional feedback was universally negative. Military testers rejected the design due to safety concerns, while civilian users complained about the weapon's impracticality for hunting or self-defense. The Colt revolver rifle managed to combine the worst aspects of both rifles and revolvers while maximizing the disadvantages of each. Manufacturing ceased when it became clear that no amount of marketing could overcome fundamental design flaws. The weapon represented a dead end in firearms evolution, proving that innovative concepts needed practical testing before reaching production. Sometimes the most obvious solutions were obvious because they didn't work. The Colt revolver rifle's failure demonstrated why successful weapons evolved gradually, rather than through revolutionary leaps. Frontier users needed reliability above all else, and weapons that injured their users were worse than useless regardless of their theoretical advantages. Number 5. The Knoll Caplock Revolver. Meet the weapon that redefined the concept of user-hostile design. Pierre Knoll's creation wasn't just mechanically bizarre, it was actively dangerous to anyone unfortunate enough to own one. This wasn't innovation, it was mechanical sadism disguised as firearms engineering. Imagine a revolver designed by someone who had clearly never held a gun, but had heard detailed descriptions from people who hated firearms. The cylinder rotated horizontally at right angles to the barrel, creating a profile so awkward that holstering it became an engineering challenge. This wasn't just unusual, it was aggressively impractical in ways that seemed almost intentional. The loading process transformed simple ammunition replacement into a complex mechanical puzzle. Users had to completely remove the cylinder, load each chamber individually, then carefully reinstall the entire assembly while ensuring proper alignment. What should have taken seconds stretched into minutes, leaving users vulnerable during the extended procedure. But here's where the design became truly diabolical. The horizontal cylinder arrangement meant that loaded chambers pointed in random directions, including directly at the shooter's face. Every time you held a loaded Knoll revolver, at least one round was aimed squarely at your own head. This wasn't just poor design, it was mechanical Russian roulette built into the weapon's basic operation. The foldable trigger mechanism added another layer of complexity to an already problematic design. While folding triggers prevented accidental discharge during carry, they also slowed deployment when speed was crucial. Users discovered that mechanical safety features were meaningless when the weapon's basic design was inherently unsafe. Power delivery was mediocrely disappointing, considering the weapon's complexity. The modest caliber and short barrel provided adequate stopping power for close encounters, but nothing that justified the mechanical complications and safety hazards inherent in the design. Users were accepting significant risks for minimal advantages. The bulging cylinder made concealed carry virtually impossible and open carry awkward. The weapon caught on clothing, snagged in holsters, and generally announced its presence in ways that defeated the purpose of personal defense. Surprise was impossible when your weapon looked like mechanical art project gone wrong. Quality control was apparently optional during manufacturing. The complex mechanism required precision engineering that Knoll's production methods couldn't consistently deliver. Users reported frequent mechanical failures, parts breakage, and assembly problems that turned their weapons into expensive paperweights at crucial moments. Sales figures reflected market reality. Even frontier users desperate for reliable firearms recognized that the Knoll revolver created more problems than it solved. A few hundred units sold before production collapsed under the weight of user complaints and mechanical inadequacy. The weapon's failure provided valuable lessons about the relationship between innovation and practicality. Revolutionary designs needed to solve actual problems rather than creating new ones. and mechanical complexity was worthless without corresponding improvements in performance or reliability. Noel's creation became a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked innovation in critical applications. Weapons needed to work reliably under stress, and designs that prioritized novelty over functionality were doomed to failure regardless of their theoretical advantages. Number 4. The Cochrane Turret Revolver. John Cochrane looked at the already problematic Noel design and thought to himself, "This isn't nearly inconvenient enough." His solution was a weapon that managed to combine every disadvantage of unusual revolver design while adding entirely new categories of user hostility. The vertical rotating cylinder created a weapon that looked like it had been designed by someone who fundamentally misunderstood how guns were supposed to work. Instead of chambers arranged horizontally around a central axis, Cochrane's design featured chambers stacked vertically, like some mechanical tower of ballistic confusion. But Cochrane wasn't content with merely creating an awkward weapon. He decided that automatic cylinder rotation was too convenient for serious shooters. His design required manual rotation after each shot, transforming rapid fire into a deliberate, methodical process that negated every advantage revolvers were supposed to provide. Picture the tactical sequence. Cock the hammer, fire, manually rotate the cylinder to align the next chamber, cock the hammer again, repeat until either the threat was eliminated or you died of old age waiting to get your next shot ready. This wasn't combat. It was mechanical choreography performed under life-threatening stress. The cylinder removal requirement for reloading made field ammunition replacement a major undertaking. Users had to completely disassemble portions of the weapon, load individual chambers, then reassemble everything while hoping they hadn't lost any critical components in the process. Combat reloading was essentially impossible. 2 chambers constantly pointed at the shooter, doubling the Noel revolver's already terrifying tendency toward user endangerment. Cochrane had somehow managed to create a weapon that was twice as likely to kill its owner as the previous design that was already considered suicidally dangerous. The weapon couldn't fit in standard holsters due to its unusual proportions, forcing users to carry it openly or devise custom leather goods. This visibility eliminated any element of surprise while advertising to potential threats that the carrier was armed with something unusual and potentially unreliable. Sales reflected market reality with brutal honesty. 150 units found buyers, presumably collectors or individuals with more money than sense. Normal users recognized that the weapon's disadvantages far outweighed any theoretical advantages, and practical firearms were readily available from established manufacturers. Cochrane's persistence was admirable if misguided. He continued developing turret designs for rifles and artillery, eventually selling patents to international buyers who apparently hadn't learned from American market rejection. The artillery version never reached production, suggesting that even military procurement officers recognized the design's fundamental flaws. The Cochrane turret revolver demonstrated that innovation without practical consideration was worse than useless. Users needed weapons that enhanced their capabilities, rather than creating new obstacles to survival, and mechanical complexity was counterproductive when it interfered with basic operation. This weapon's failure highlighted the importance of user feedback in design processes. Successful firearms evolved through practical testing and real-world application, while theoretical innovations that ignored user needs were doomed regardless of their mechanical ingenuity. But even Cochrane's mechanical nightmare paled in comparison to what's coming next. A weapon so fundamentally flawed, so breathtakingly dangerous to its own users, that it redefined the concept of self-destructive design in ways that still boggle the mind today.